up, everybody? This is a new L coming to you with part 1 of the Secrets Uncovered. I'm coming to you with the first chapter of the Redemption Manual, but I'm reading from the end to get to the beginning. Hopefully, then you'll be able to have a full over and understanding. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of history. Help us to get back to we the people instead of being controlled by a false entity that's really a corporation but claims to be a government. A government doesn't seek profit through commerce off the people. Neither are they the stockholders. We the people are stockholders. So I can expose how everything put on a twist and we've been trapped. But it's a way out of it. Especially for the aboriginal of this continent. This is the message. It's truly straightforward too. Get myself settled a little bit before I get to reading, because it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of history, a lot of truth. You can look it up yourself. But the choice is yours to act upon it. But here we go. Pause that for a little bit right there. What I'm coming to you with is part 1, the end of part 1 of the Redemption Manual. It's 1 through 20. They got a part like chapter 2. It's the end of the chapter. It's called Federal Children. Are we owned by the government? With a question mark at the end. I got federal children in parentheses. But here we go. It starts off like this. In 1921, the Federal Shepard Town Maternity Act created the birth registration, or what we now know as the birth certificate. It was known as the Maternity Act and was sold to the American people as a law that would reduce maternal and infant mortality, protect the health of mothers and infants, and for other purposes, which is underlined in this parentheses, with letting you know it is more than other purposes that's going on here. But at the same time, we're going to stick to the script and keep on reading. One of those other purposes provided for state agencies and overseeing of its operations and expenditures. I don't know how to pronounce the word, but I'm pretty sure y'all know what I'm saying. What it really did was create a federal birth registry, which exists today, creating federal children. Big bold letters with underline. This government of parents, Patria, P-A-T-R-I-A-E, now legislate for American children as if they are owned by the federal government through the public school enrollment process and continuing license requirements for most aspects of daily life. These children grow up to be adults and indoctrinated into those things necessary to carry out activities that exist in what is called a free country. It's really not sounding free yet. It's been starting out sounding free in a moment as I keep on reading. Right. Here we go, people. Here we go. Before 1921, the record of births and names of children were entered into the family Bibles, as were the records of marriages and deaths. These records were readily accepted by both the family and the law as official records. Bold letters underlined lowercase in parentheses. Official records. Since 1921, the American people has been registering the births and names of their children with the government of the state in which they are born. Even though there is no federal law requiring it, but they come in force like it is required, but there's really no law. If you knew, you wouldn't go for it. I'm gonna just put it like that, because you're turning your children to chattel slave chattel slavery going on today still. But anyway, since 1921, people have been registering the births and names of their children with the government of the state in which they are born, even though there's no federal law requiring it. The states tell you that registering your child's birth through the birth certificate serves proof that he/she was born in the United States, thereby making him/her a United States citizen. For the past several years, a Social Security number has been mandated by the federal government to be issued at birth. Social Security number is one of those in small case letters, bold, underline, parentheses, other purposes. It serves as a means of lifelong tracking of the one whose name is on the birth certificate. In 1933, the United States of America corporate government was declared bankrupt by Roosevelt. The governors of the then 48 states pledged the full faith and credit of each of their states, including the citizenry of, excuse me, including the citizenry as collateral for loans of credit from the Federal Reserve System. To wit, to witness full faith and credit, big bold letters underlined, the clause of the United States Constitution, Article 4, Section 1, which provides that the various states must recognize legislative acts, public records, and judicial decisions of the other states within the United States. It requires that foreign judgment be given such faith and credit as it has had by law or usage of state of its origin. That foreign status are to have force and effect to which they are entitled in home state, and that a judgment of record shall have the same faith, credit, conclusive effect, in big bold letters, and obligatory force in other states as it has by law or uses in the state from whence taken. Black Law Dictionary, 4th edition and 6th edition, page 672, cites omitted. After receiving the information of live birth, and other particulars for the birth certificate accompanied by the assigned Social Security number, the state claims an interest in every child within its jurisdiction. So we are assets. Listen, the state will, if it is deemed necessary, nullify your parental rights and appoint a guardian, in parentheses, trustee over your children. The subject of every birth is a child. The child is a valuable excuse me, people. The child is a valuable asset which, if properly trained, can contribute valuable assets provided by its labor for many years. It is pursued by those who have researched this issue that the child itself is the asset of the trust established by the birth certificate. So they saying that the child itself is the asset of the trust established by the birth certificate. So that means if we're an asset, that means they can do whatever they want to do with it. They can make us go work over here for free or anything if they choose to. because a contract has been signed by your parents and so on and so on and so on, and we got to find a way out of it. We ain't got to find it. It's already here. But at the same time, let's continue reading, people. That the child itself is the asset of the trust established by birth certificate, and the social security number is the numbering registration of the trust, allowing for the trust assets to be tracked. If this information is true, and parentheses, and we believe it is, our children are owned by the state. Each one of us, including our children, are considered assets of bankrupt United States corporation. We are now designated by the government as human resources in big bold letters and parentheses underlined, born in a delivery, big bold letters underlined, room, delivered to the state of birth by the way of the birth certificate, big bold letters underlined, for which our informer, big bold letters underlined, regular letters and parentheses, our mother, provides the request. The information including name and social security or tracking number, wherewith this bankrupt government is supplied with new crop of collateral born each year. It's crazy, ain't it? And when we get through reading, I got another section I would like to read. Hopefully you have time and patience for it. But here we go again. Continue reading. It's a little bit here. Y'all just bear with me. In 1923, a suit was brought against the federal. In 1923, a suit was brought against federal officials, corporation charged with the administration of the Maternity Act, who were citizens of another state, to enjoin them from enforcing it, wherein the plaintiff averred that the act was unconstitutional and that its purpose was to induce the state to yield sovereign rights reserved by them through the federal Constitution, 10th Amendment, and not granted to the federal government, and that the burden of the appropriations falls unequally upon the several states. Held that as the state does not require the plaintiff to do or yield anything, and no burden is imposed by it other than that of taxation, which falls not on the state but on its inhabitants. So you think about that. Who are within the federal as well as reserved powers of the state by mere I'm sorry. Who are within the federal as well as reserved as well as the state taxing power. The complaint resolves down to the naked contention that Congress has asserted reserved powers of the state by mere enactment of the statute. Though nothing has been or is to be done under it without their consent. Commonwealth of Massachusetts versus Melton, Secretary of the Treasury. ETAL Fortingham versus Mellon, Secretary of Treasury. ETL Mr. Alexander Lincoln, Assistant Attorney General, argued for Commonwealth Massachusetts to witness. I got one right here. The act is unconstitutional. It purports to vest in agencies of the federal government a corporation power which has almost wholly undefined in matters relating to maternity and infancy, to authorize appropriations of federal funds for the purpose of that act. So they can tax us. Here we go. Many examples may be given and were stated in the debates on the bill in Congress of regulation, which may be imposed under the act. The force, this is in big bold letters underlined, the forced registry of pregnancy, government prenatal examination of expectant mothers, restriction of the right of a woman to secure the service of a midwife or physician of her own selection. And big bold letters, they should all are measures to which the people of those states which accepted its provision may be subjected. There is nothing which prohibits the payment of subsidies out of a federal appropriation. Insurance of mothers may be compulsory. The teaching of birth control and physical inspection of person about to marry may be required by Section 4 of the Act. The Children's Bureau is given all necessary power to cooperate with the state agencies in the administration of the Act. Hence, it is given the power to assist in the plans submitted, may provide as to what those plans should provide. The final arbiter are the Bureau and the Board. The facility, the fact that it was considered necessary to exploit, necessary and explicit term to preserve from, hold on, I gotta slide the page over, invasion by federal officials, the right of the parent to the custody and care of his child, the sanctity of his home shows how far-reaching are the powers which were intended to be granted by that act. Someone in parentheses. The act is invalid because it assumes power not granted to Congress and usurps the local police power. McCulloch versus Maryland, 4 Wheat, 316, 405, United States versus Cruikshank, 92.US, 92 US 542, 549 through 551. Okay, excuse me, y'all. Kind of got lost here on the page a little bit. In more recent cases, however, the court has shown that there are limits to the power of Congress to pass legislation purporting to be based on one of the powers especially granted to the Congress, which in fact observes the reserved powers of the United States, and that laws showing on their face detailed regulations of matter wholly within the police power of the state will be held to be unconstitutional, although they purport to be passed in the exercise of some constitutional power. Hammer versus Dagenhart, 247, 259, U.S. 44. The act is not made valid by the circumstance. The federal powers are to be exercised only with yield. The powers reserved to the states by the Constitution. A message of President Monroe, May 4, 1822, for Elliot's Debate, page 525. Pollard's Leslie versus Hagen. 3. HOW How 212. Excalibur Company versus Chicago. 101 US 678. Coley versus Oklahoma. 221 US 559. Cincinnati versus Louisville and Nashville Railroad Company. 223 US 390. Okay. Keep on reading. Federal children. The act is invalid because it imposed on each state an illegal operation either to yield a part of its power reserved by the Tenth Commandment to give up its shares of appropriation under that act, a statute attempting by imposing conditions upon a general privilege to exact a waiver of a constitutional right is null and void. Harrison versus St. Louis and San Francisco Railroad Company 232 US 318. Terrell versus Burt Construction Company 257 US 529. The act is invalid. This 3. No, 3. The act is valid because it sets up a system of government by cooperating between the federal government and a corporation and certain of the states not provided by the Constitution. Congress cannot make laws for the state. It cannot delegate to the state power to make laws for the United States. And Rabrer, RABRER, 140 US 545. Knickerbocker Ice Company versus Stewart 253 US 149. Opinion of the Justice 239 Mass. 606. The Maternity Act was eventually repealed, but parts of it has been found in other legislative acts. What this act attempted to do was to set up government by appointment, run by bureaucrats with regulated authority to tax, which is in itself unconstitutional. What was once declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court of this nation in the past should be upheld in a court challenge today. The Constitution has not changed. What has changed is the way this government views human life. Today we are defined as human resources, believed to be owned by the government. The government now wants us individuals to be tagged and tracked. Government mandated or legislated national ID, which is unconstitutional. Federal jurisdiction to legislate for the several states do not exist and could never survive a court challenge as shown above. Written letters to elected public servants will not save us when we all know their agenda does not include serving those who place them in power, servitude. Perhaps the 10th Amendment of the Federal Constitution guaranteeing states' rights will, if challenged when making it known that we as individuals of the several states will not be treated as chattel of the United States government, that the federal government believes that they own us and as such have the right to demand national IDs, ID cards, and help ID card, which will in truth tag us as we tag our animals, then let them bring forth the documents to prove their authority to legislate for it. If our God-given rights to life, liberty, freedom, and pursuit to happiness, which were the foundations upon which this nation was created, do not exist, and liberty and freedom is only an illusion under which the American people suffered, then let the government of this nation come forth and tell the people. But if we are judged free, then we should not have to plead or beg before our elected public servants to be treated as such. If in truth we are not free, then perhaps it is our duty to address this issue forthright and forthwith with the power of the pen, and pray the people will waken from their fear and slumber and induced by greed. I continue reading. Okay, that was the end right there, y'all. I hope y'all get a chance to sit here and listen to exactly everything I was just reading. This is part one of the secrets being uncovered. Uncovered secrets. No longer will they hide, because we are being forced into something we know nothing about. And they're breaking the law. But if you know not how, you know what I'm saying, you're just gonna be asleep. And they can continue, hey, make money off you some type of way. You gotta have money just to eat. What is that? Hell on earth. Hell on earth, I tell you people. I'm not gonna be able, I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it as quickly, because I really ain't trying to have this video that long. I want to read this though. Okay, this is called The American People Wake Up. It's short. I just wanted to read this to you people. This is what your so-called government has set up for you. American people wake up, attributed to, if it is not his, it is appropriate. Edward Mandell House, sent by the powers that ruled the democracy, commercial government form, England, worked with and controlled all the presidents from Woodrow Wilson through Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in establishing all that the American people are reaping by slavery. Had this private meeting with Woodrow Wilson in 1913 through 1921 and stated, I'm going to read this and I'm going to close it out. I don't think I asked that y'all share. Part 2 is coming real soon. Like I'm saying, I'm going from the beginning of each chapter. I mean, from the end of each chapter to get to the beginning, so you'll have a full understanding. And it says at this meeting in American people are reaping. Actually, they had a private meeting in 1913 to 1921 and stated, very soon, every American will be required to register their biological property in a national system designed to keep track of the people, and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. But such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. Every American will be forced to register or suffer being able to work and earn a living. They will be our chattel. We will hold the security interest over them forever by operation of the law merchant under the scheme of secure transactions. Americans, by unknowingly and unwittingly delivering the bills of lading to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent forever, to remain economic slaves through taxation secured by their pledges. That means you sign any document, any contract. These are our contracts, all the documentation that we're signing. Any type of paperwork is contract. They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser. For not one man in a million could ever figure out our plans, and if by accident one or two should figure it out, we will have our arsenal plausible deniability. After all, this is the only logical way to fund government, by floating lendings and debt to the registrant in the form of benefits and privileges. This will inevitably reap to us huge profit beyond our wildest expectations and leave every American a contributor to this fraud. That's messed up. I'm sorry for laughing, but they using the gift of gab on the people, and I don't know, which we will call social insurance. Without realizing it, every American will insure us for any loss we may occur, and in this manner, every American will unknowingly be our servant. However, begrudgingly, the people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the president of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against America. But it says at the end, use the redemption process power, attorney, in fact, be a free man and woman. But everything must be on point, because if not, they're going to try to figure a way to say, bamboozle you. Gotta make sure you don't read all the documentation, everything dealing with law, have yourself on point. But peace, people. This part one of Secrets Being Uncovered. I'm coming to you with part two. I'm scavenging throughout certain parts of it, because it's stuff that need to be heard. But this is part one. Secrets Uncovered. Are we the government's children? You never know until you read. Peace.